And thank you for staying with Checkpoint now into our discussion when we talk about corruption, the war on corruption and the cost of corruption in general. And joining me for that particular discussion to my far left is Gabriel Muthuma, who's a political analyst. And of course, we have next to me Professor Fred Ogola, who's a governance and policy expert and equally a director at Trailblazer Business Strategies. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, Ashley.
I'm happy you're here.
Ashley, thanks.
Yes,
thanks for having us once again.
Okay, so Prof, I'll start with you because you said, we need to break down the cost of corruption before we even continue with this conversation. So let's start at that. Break it down for us.
Yeah, by the way, let me start by thanking you, Ashley, and Team KTN for having used the word cost of corruption. In fact, when I saw it, I went and did some research and found out that if you look at IMF is saying that the world is losing 5% of the world global GDP on corruption. That is $2.6 trillion. If you now come to the UN actually is saying that the world is losing $13 trillion. And now when we come home, because we don't want to involve Kenyans in what I called last time when I was with Gabe on what's called money illusion, EACC says that we lose 7.8% of the national GDP, which is 608 billion Kenya shillings annually. And now if you look at what now the president is trying to do now by saying he wants to cut on the 3 billion shillings budget, I'm sure he does not need to go very far. He just reduce this by half.
Yeah.
And in fact, last time when I discussed with Gabe last time, I was trying to tell him that the finance bill is trying to address the wrong problem because the problem has never been the revenue, the problem expenditure. And if you're losing this amount of money to corruption, then I guess maybe even Gabe will want to be concerned. But if you leave this material cost of corruption, can you believe that after the young people have seen continuously that people steal money and nothing happens, a survey showed that over 78% of young people don't want to know how you make money, but how you spend it. So the cost is not just in terms of how much money we are losing, but the moral decay it comes with, whereby some people have said it's acceptable to bribe, it's acceptable to accept a bribe, and it could be unacceptable if you don't ask for something in favor for offering a service.
Yeah.
For me, that's a bigger cost than actually even the financial cost, because you can change the financial cost, but the behavioral cost is very expensive.
Okay. Yeah. So picking it up from where you've left off, 7.8% of our GDP annually. I mean, from where you sit, do we have a weak link? And if so, who is the weak link?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Actually, I think we have a problem. And for the longest, I think we've noted that problem.
Yeah.
And I've told people, not once, not twice, that I believe the reason why we have such high scales of corruption is not because we don't have a very strong penal code. No. It's because people do the vice and they get away with it.
Okay.
That is the major problem, number one.
Yeah.
You do the dirty vices and all the opportunistic elements of corruption, fully well knowing that you can get away with it. So that is the problem, number one. That is why I think for the longest, we have not had a leader, let me say that,
okay,
who definitively established a system to deal with corruption. What am I saying? The first executive order we saw was unprecedented. It has never happened in the history of this country.
Yeah.
Was where the president, upon being sworn in, declared financial independence to the primary offices that deal with corruption, namely the National Police Service, the DCI, and the judiciary. It has never happened. What was he saying? What was he doing? Furthermore, he moved on a little bit. The people he had as free hand to hire and bring on board to assist in his administration, these are the PSS and the CSS.
Yeah.
He opened up an avenue where the lawmakers can call them into parliament and question them. It has never happened.
All right.
So here you have somebody who has not only instituted facilities that will assist in fighting corruption head on, he has also said these people that I've hired, they will not only take directives from me.
Okay.
You lawmakers are free to call them into parliament to come and answer questions. Now, many people, including myself at some point, we thought, this may be some of the gimmicks that we've seen in the past. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, how things have gone on historically, you would have come and arrested me. Probably have done some multi-million, some multi-billion corruption deal. And when I'm in a criminal facility, you get what you used to hear, orders from above. Guess what, Ashley? That's long gone.
Okay.
The president has promised he has never, and he will never, call those institutions to tell them or sway them in any way. To me, and to many Kenyans, yes, we may sometimes, the Kenyans, the Kenyans we are, we may feign ignorance, but that is a huge statement. When you make institutions that are mandated by the Constitution to fight corruption, when you give them the autonomy, and most importantly, the financial independence.
Before I even give you a chance to respond to that, it's just today we were saying, I've forgotten the name, I think NIA, complaining that the DPP is being brought back to the NIS. And guys were wondering, you know, when you talk about the independence,
right.
Just in the past 8 months, I think we've seen around 8 cases being dropped.
Right.
The same people who were involved in these cases, allegedly, have been reappointed to executive positions.
Now, I'll answer that.
Okay.
As much as we've seen some drop, we've also seen some that have actually been executed properly. Now, you need to ask yourself, why this? Why not the rest? There has been, historically, we saw, and I think this is what the president was trying to run away from. We saw politics play in the grand scheme of criminal, or if I can put it correctly, the underhands that we saw within our criminal justice system. That somebody could be called and told, you know what, find out what we can use against Ashley. And before you say cut and a half, you wake up in the morning and you have DCI officers waiting for you at your doorstep. You've done nothing. You are hauled from one police station to another, which is actually politically motivated. And then you expect the DPP to really get that file and take it in front of the, seriously? And that's what he was saying. We knew at one point, Ashley, if we were to be honest, we knew there was a huge disconnect. We saw that.
So you think
there was a disconnect? Of course, there was a major disconnect between the office of the ODPP and the DCI at one point. And sometimes you were asking, how can this be that these two offices are not marinated to ensure that people don't get away with some of these criminalities that we are witnessing? And then we came to find out that actually most of these things were politically instigated. Where do you take that?
All right, Prof, I know you wanted to jump